232. Let's get to a bonus review, which is Joker from 2019. It's directed by Todd Phillips, stars Joaquin Phoenix, Robert De Niro, Zazie Beetz, Francis Conroy, Shea Wiggum. And the synopsis is Arthur Fleck, a party clown and a failed stand-up comedian, leads an impoverished life with his ailing mother. However, when society shuns him and brands him as a freak, he decides to embrace the life of chaos in Gotham City. So, firstly, I know this isn't, the typical Halloween movie, but sometimes I associate Joker stuff, DC movies with Halloween, and I usually rewatch Joker around this time of year, so maybe I'm in the minority, I don't know, but figured I'd include it. As of now, I have not seen Joker 2 yet. I will be doing a review when I do see that. Well, when this one was released and the build-up to it, people went nuts for it. It made $1 billion at the box office. It got Joaquin Phoenix an Oscar, amongst many other accolades as well. I was very much looking forward to it. I'm a big Joker fan. I usually prefer the more ambitious one-off DC movies as opposed to a lot of the safer stuff of Marvel. Not to say that Marvel is bad. Love Marvel. I've seen it a handful of times, but even when I first saw it, I really, really liked it. I don't think it's perfect, but as far as superhero films or comic book films go, it's one of my favorites. Before I get more into that, I know that there are a lot of haters of this movie, which to each their own, fair enough. But I know one main criticism that I read is people criticize the shallowness of the psychological aspect of Arthur Fleck. That's something I can see it in a sense, but compared to all the other movies, compared to all the other character studies, both comic book films and not, I don't know why this one, I know people just love to hate on DC for some reason, but I don't really understand why this one, the, shallowness of it is a bigger issue compared to other ones, because there are plenty of celebrated movies that don't go any further into their ideas than this one does. Not to say it's undeserving of any criticism, but that has always sort of baffled me. For the most part, 9 times out of 10, the people who I talked to about this movie, it did have some sort of effect on them. I was very emotionally invested, psychologically invested. I really like the portrayal of Arthur Fleck being this person who is completely run down by society, by those around him. He's disregarded. The medical system is failing him. The city itself is dying in a sense, and he just cannot get ahead. He's dragging through life while also taking care of his mother and really does not have a life of his own. And then he's failing at the things that he really wants to do that makes him happy. And that's something that I think most people can relate to in a sense. Everybody gets a point in their life when they're just bogged down by everything. They're beaten down. They're worn out. And in some ways, the rebellion of him in this movie, while obviously it's criminal, I think there's still that experiential nature where it's showing this guy bouncing back and bouncing back very hard. I know also that when this came out, there was a lot of criticism as to it possibly inciting violence. I don't mean to be contrarian for the sake of it. I'm just honestly saying how all of these things that people put onto this movie, projected onto it, was way overblown. I see movies every month about people being disregarded, being thrown away, fighting the man, that sort of thing, and rising up, causing violence, causing this, causing that. revolution in a variety of ways, and those don't seem to be criticized for that. So I think that those observations, if that's you, fine. I just disagree. I don't think that there's really a lot there to really pinpoint as, yes, this is what this means, or this is what that means. This is a direct reflection. It feels, in a lot of ways, due to how it's shot incredibly well. It looks great. Reminded me a lot of Taxi Driver, which is a definite inspiration for Todd Phillips. Even Seven, the David Fincher film, in terms of the aesthetic. Getting more so, I don't want to talk about all the surrounding stuff with it too much. The opening scene really sets the stage for everything in terms of him being this street clown for a business, and then these bullies knocking him down and beating him up. And what I love, because I knew her work before this, and I was so happy to see that she got this huge opportunity, and she won the Oscar for it as well. Cannot say her name properly, so I'm not even going to try. I don't want to butcher it too much, but the composer, who is an Icelandic composer, the score is incredible. That really bassy, edgy, icy string music throughout the whole thing. Like, the moment you hear that, you know you're in for something very different, tonally and emotionally. At least in terms of what I was expecting going in. You know, I didn't expect it to be as grueling and grim and lived in as it really does feel. Todd Phillips in general, he's a bit hit and miss for me. I like The Hangover a lot. War Dogs, not a huge fan. I like Old School, and I appreciate him taking chances as he did with Joker 2, which I'm very excited to see no matter what. Performance-wise, Joaquin Phoenix, I mean, he's one of the best actors working today, in my opinion. He's always been one of my favorites for years. He is amazing in this. And I know that if they had a lesser actor in this, it would not be the same movie. He definitely carries it and gives the movie more depth emotionally, and even just showing that arc, that fine line of him teetering between bursting out into violence and anger, the depression, the frustration, the just being a fish out of water, not really connecting with people well, scaring people. The laugh is very unsettling, effectively so. And I like that they also explain that in terms of him having this card that says, I have a condition, and they do a decent job of making that seem like this is a real guy. It's not him falling into a vat of acid and becoming the Joker. It's, here, I have this condition that's causing this uncontrollable laughter, and then he was a clown for work, and so fit all the pieces together. As Arthur Fleck sees himself towards the beginning as if he was on Robert De Niro's show, his talk show, and that fantasy of being seen, being beloved, being cared for. Very much a wish fulfillment. And I think most people could probably relate to that in a sense of you thinking, what would it be like if I got to be on my favorite talk show or anything like that? The scenes with the therapist or the psychiatrist, whoever it is, and her not really having the ability to help him because of how failed the system is around him, and then just in general not being the best help by herself either. So that's definitely sadly a very relevant thing nowadays in terms of people finding the right help for what's going on or being listened to, especially in the medical field. Zazie Beetz is another good part of the film. She doesn't have a whole lot to do, but I like that character and that dream sequence of him when he gets invigorated and he opens up the door and kisses her. I think that's, considering it's a dream, I think it's effective. The bathroom dance, iconic, of course. That's one of the more referenced parts of the movie, and I know that that was a bit of a off the cuff choice by Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix at the time. Plus the stairway dance, that's amazing. I mean, again, like, it, say what you will, but I think this movie really did capture something very different and so full of energy, both the lightness and the darkness, especially when you have that build up, for example, towards the beginning when you see Arthur Fleck coming home from work, I think, and he's at the bottom of the steps and he just has to really slog his way upstairs to the very top. And then when things go crazy and he kills the guy in the apartment and he's wearing the white face paint, and that all builds up to him in some ways becoming the person that he wants to. For the worse, obviously, but for him, that's what he wants. One of the more unsettling scenes that didn't really need to be there, but I think it's very creepy, is when he goes to Wayne Manor and he sees Bruce behind the gate and he just sticks his fingers in the boy's mouth and makes him smile. Like, it's so gross to think if that was actually, like, could you imagine that being your kid and you walking up and seeing some random person do that to your child? Like, pretty crazy, but, you know, in the context of the movie, I don't doubt him for doing something as weird as that. The killing of Robert De Niro live on the show is pretty insane and very, I mean, you knew something like that was coming, but it's very shocking when it happens. The aftermath of all that is, I mean, I don't really need to see them actually starting this big riot revolution, but I think it's still epic in feel and very dramatic. Some design choices that are very good. The look of Arthur Fleck before he really becomes Joker, with how his outfits really feel both like he's a little kid but also an old guy. I don't know how that was accomplished, but I think that comes through completely. The Joker suit, when he becomes Joker, quote unquote, it feels sort of like how he used to dress, just much more vivid and very 70s in nature. I don't mind the tie-in to the mom and the Wayne family. Maybe some people don't like that. Let me know if you have a way to comment, but I really didn't mind that. I thought it was well told within the script. When I think of movies dealing with, I mean, you could almost call it misery porn, which I don't think that's inherently a bad thing for me. Sometimes I like just watching a movie about a guy who's down in the dumps the whole time, and you can kind of just wallow in that or show, hey, someone is in a worse place than I am. Something like that. I think we all need that at one point or another. So that one is a heavy 4.5 out of 5.